All right. Good afternoon. Just a couple of programming notes. On Monday, our Deputy Secretary General Mina Mohammed will be here in this very room, and she'll be accompanied by Ambassador Hector Gomez Hernandez, the permanent representative of Spain to these United Nations, and Ambassador Chola Milambo, the permanent representative of Zambia to these United Nations. They will be here to brief you on expectations for the upcoming 4th International Conference on Financing for Development, which will take place in Sevilla in Spain. Exactly. And they will be Spanish-English interpretation. Speaking of the Security Council this morning, the Secretary General urged Israel and Iran to give peace a chance and warned Security Council members that we are not drifting towards a crisis, we are racing towards it. He said that the Non-Proliferation Treaty is a cornerstone of international security, and Iran must respect it. The only way to bridge the trust gap with Iran, he added, is through diplomacy to establish a credible, comprehensive, and verifiable solution, including full access to the inspectors of the International Atomic Energy Agency. Mr. Guterres warned that the only thing that is predictable is that the consequences of continuing this conflict are unpredictable. He was followed by Rosemary DiCarlo, the Undersecretary General for Political and Peace-Building Affairs, and she told Council members that the scope and scale of attacks in Iran and Israel continue to widen, with grave consequences for the lives of civilians in both of these countries. The intensifying cycle of attacks and counterattacks has resulted in hundreds of civilian casualties, including fatalities in both Iran and Israel. She added that we are teetering on the edge of a full-blown conflict and a humanitarian crisis. International humanitarian law must be respected, and that includes the principles of distinction, proportionality, and precautions in any attack. Ms. DiCarlo said that we welcome the talks between the foreign ministers of the Islamic Republic of Iran and France, Germany, and the United Kingdom that are taking place in Geneva, I believe, as we speak. We strongly encourage such efforts, she said. We must pursue every available opportunity to de-escalate, to cease the hostilities, and to settle disputes by peaceful means. Also briefing was Rafael Grossi, the Director General of the IAEA, and he told Council members that attacks on nuclear sites in Iran have caused sharp degradation in nuclear safety and security there, though they have not so far led to a radiological release affecting the public. There is a danger that this could occur, he told Council members. Mr. Grossi said he's ready to travel immediately and to engage with all relevant parties to ensure the protection of nuclear facilities and continued peaceful uses of nuclear technology in line with the agency's mandate, including by deploying agency nuclear safety and security expert wherever and whenever necessary. At 3 p.m., the Security Council will reconvene for a briefing on the maintenance of peace and security as it relates to Ukraine. Miroslav Yencha, the Assistant Secretary General in the Department of Political and Peace-Building Affairs, will brief on behalf of the Secretariat. And also briefing will be the Director of Operations and Advocacy at OCHA, and we will share those remarks with you as we can. Staying in Ukraine, I can tell you that our humanitarian colleagues told us today that attacks in the cities of Kharkiv and Odessa killed and injured civilians, including children and first responders. That's what local authorities are telling us. Homes, education facilities, and utility pipelines were also damaged. Additional casualties were reported in the regions of Donetsk, Kherson, and Dnipro. In Odessa and Kharkiv, humanitarian organizations supported local responders and provided hot meals, emergency shelter, and psychosocial support. Meanwhile, an interagency humanitarian convoy today delivered vital aid to the communities of Bilozerka in the regions of Kherson, which is in the south of Ukraine. The supplies included hygiene items, bed linens, kitchen sets, first aid kits, and a charging station. The area remains under constant shelling, and thousands of residents need humanitarian aid. This was the second such convoy to reach frontline areas of Kherson this week alone. Our humanitarian colleagues note that some 9.4 million Ukrainians are still displaced inside their own country or abroad, and more than 4 years since the full-scale invasion and over a decade into the war that began in 2014. This includes 5.6 million refugees globally. That's what UNHCR is telling us. The International Organization for Migration says another 3.8 million people remain internally displaced. Turning to the situation in Gaza, our colleagues at the Office of the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs inform us that Israeli authorities issued another displacement order today in Gaza Governorate, citing Palestinian rocket fire from that area. This has affected 2 neighborhoods where hundreds of families were living. Yesterday, out of 21 attempts by ourselves and our humanitarian partners to coordinate humanitarian movements inside Gaza, 12 of those attempts were facilitated by the Israeli authorities. That included the dispatch of fuel to the north, the retrieval of solid waste, and the distribution of medical supplies. 5 other attempts, including water trucking and road repair, were denied, while remaining 4 had to be canceled by the organizers. As a reminder, no fuel has entered Gaza Strip for 16 weeks now. As I told you, we did manage to retrieve fuel from the Tahrir station in Rafah on Wednesday, and a limited amount of that fuel was delivered yesterday to public utilities in southern Gaza. That allowed the continued operation of desalination plants, water trucking services, and sewage pumping stations. However, fuel instability and fuel shortages continue to limit our operations, resulting in reduced operating hours and capacity. Regarding telecommunications, and you'll recall that the central and southern Gaza have been experiencing major telecommunications outages this week due to damage to a fiber optic cable serving those areas. Today, one of the Palestinian service providers reported that they have started to restore fixed internet and landline services in some parts of southern Gaza. Despite major security risks and difficult conditions on the ground, the team continued to work to get these services back up and running in central and southern Gaza. Meanwhile, UNICEF warns that the number of malnourished children in Gaza is rising at an alarming rate, with more than 5,100 children between 6 months and 5 years of age admitted for treatment for acute malnutrition in May alone. The agency says it represents a nearly 50% increase compared to April and a 150% increase compared to February. And as you'll recall, during that time in February, a ceasefire was in effect and aid was entering the Gaza Strip in significant quantities, and it is, of course, not the case right now. UNICEF says just 150 days from the start of the year till the end of May, more than 16,700 children, which is an average of 112 per day, have been admitted for malnutrition treatment in Gaza. Each one of these cases is preventable. The food, water, and nutrition treatments these children so desperately need are being blocked from reaching them. UNICEF called for Israel to urgently allow the large-scale delivery of life-saving aid through all border crossing. The agency says it is currently distributing what little nutrition supply it is able to bring into Gaza. Meanwhile, the equivalent of 1,000 truckloads of health, nutrition, and other supplies are outside the borders, ready to be delivered. Over the last 2 days, more than 1,400 children and caregivers received critical services, including structured psychosocial support, case management, individual consultations, and that happened across 10 locations in Gaza City, Deir al-Balah, and Khan Yunis. Turning to the West Bank, our colleagues at OCHA are warning that the more than 1,200 Palestinians in 13 communities in the Masafer Yatta area of southern Hebron are now at greater risk of forced displacement. This follows a new Israeli move to reject any pending new planning and zoning requests in that area outright, including the application for building permits. OCHA warns that this latest development could speed up the demolition of all structures in those communities. OCHA is calling for stepped-up protection for the hurting community who have remained in the area for decades as they come under mounting pressure to leave. Our Undersecretary General for Peace Operations, Jean-Pierre Lacroix, arrived today in Damascus, where he's scheduled to meet officials. Earlier today, he visited Camp Fuar, where he met members of UNDOF and was briefed on the latest developments in the mission area. Prior to that, as you know, he was in Lebanon. Throughout his engagements with officials there, Mr. Lacroix reaffirmed the crucial role of the peacekeeping mission and the importance of the implementation of Security Council Resolution 1701. He also visited areas along the Blue Line and expressed his appreciation for the work of our peacekeepers operating under increasingly complex and challenging conditions. And he also held a last official meeting with the outgoing head of mission at UNIFIL, Force Commander General Haroldo Lazzaro, and he passed on to the Secretary General's deep thanks and appreciation for his work leading UNIFIL in these very challenging times. Earlier today, the Swiss government announced a generous financial package of support to the United Nations presence in Geneva. The Secretary General is very much appreciative of the Swiss Federal Council for this decision. We are determined to continue working in partnership with Switzerland to advance the cause of multilateralism. Our presence in Geneva remains an integral part of the United Nations system. The Swiss support for that presence is crucial. Turning to Sudan and the dreadful humanitarian situation there, I can tell you that we echo the calls of the High Commissioner for Human Rights, Volker Turk. Mr. Turk urged parties to ensure civilians can safely leave the cities of El Fasher, of Al-Dabibat, and El Obeid, as well as other places where civilians may be trapped because of escalation of hostilities between the two sides. He also called for thorough investigation into violations and crimes committed, and that those responsible must be held to account. And just to note that Mr. Turk will visit Sri Lanka on June 23rd. He will discuss there with officials a wide range of issues related to human rights, and he'll hold a press conference in Colombo at the end of his visit, which will be on the 26th of June. Earlier today, you heard from Virginia Gamba as she launched the Secretary General's annual report on children in armed conflict. And that report says that last year saw the highest numbers of grave violations against children in armed conflict since the UN started monitoring this 30 years ago. In 2024, the Office for Children in Armed Conflict recorded 41,370 incidents of such violations, 25% increase over 2023. Nearly 12,000 children were verified to have been killed or maimed, with the likely toll being obviously far higher. These places with the highest level of violations in 2024 were Israel, the occupied Palestinian territory, notably Gaza, as well as the Democratic Republic of Congo, Somalia, Nigeria, and Haiti. Ms. Gamba said that these findings should serve as a wake-up call, showing that we are at a point of no return. The full report is very much online. In his message for World Refugee Day, which is today, the Secretary General said that we recognize the millions of refugees forced to flee war, persecution, and disaster. He noted that from Sudan to Ukraine, from Haiti to Myanmar, a record number of people are on the run for their lives, while support is dwindling. And host communities, the Secretary General added, often in developing countries, are shouldering the greatest burden. This is unfair and unsustainable, he said, stressing that solidarity must go beyond words. For his part, Filippo Grandi, the High Commissioner for Refugees, is spending World Refugee Day in Syria with some of the 600,000 people who have returned from neighboring countries to their homes. He underscored that the day is also a moment to sound an alarm on the refugees' behalf. Now more than ever, he stressed, we must stand with refugees to keep alive their hopes for a better future. And on a related note, in Botswana, the UN team there welcomes the completed relocation this week of more than 460 asylum seekers, nearly half of them children, from a center for illegal immigrants to a refugee settlement. Our UN colleagues said the long-awaited move brings long overdue relief to people held in detention since 2021 and marks an important step towards upholding the rights and dignity of refugees and asylum seekers. 2 more international days to flag. A bit on the lighter note, I would encourage you to do some stretching today because tomorrow is the International Day of Yoga. And to celebrate that important day, the Permanent Mission of India is organizing a yoga event in collaboration with the UN Secretariat at 5 p.m. here in the North Lawn area. You can bring your yoga mat and practice some poses. I look forward to seeing all of you there in your yoga outfits. What? It depends how many of you show up. And tomorrow, the International Day of the celebration of the solstice. The solstice for some, including us here in New York, is the promise of warmer days, though we do have them. Make sure to go out and enjoy the longest day of the year, because after that, it just gets shorter. This is the moment where you work. No question. Allez, Amélie, let's go. Give it a try.
Sorry. Next week, on Thursday, the GA is marking the 80th anniversary of the adoption of the UN Charter.
Mm-hmm.
Will the AG participate in a context where the UN is under attack, literally, verbally, and criticized a lot for not doing what it's supposed to do? What is his message for the 80th anniversary?
Well, yes, the Secretary General participate. The message is that the ideals of the Charter, the ideals reflected in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, are more important now than ever. The more they are attacked and flouted by member states and others that we see, the more we need a global push to reaffirm their centrality in our efforts to build a better world. Okay, enjoy the day. Oh, Abdelhamid, sorry, damn. No, you guys, you're
far away from you.
You're doing what I tell my son never to do, is just doing two things at once.
Oh, thank you.
Go ahead.
Yeah, today, again, 70 Palestinians were killed, 25 of them while waiting for food distribution. What are your, do you have any information?
Look, we
Can
don't,
you confirm?
we have not gotten any information as of now. We've seen the press reports, which are horrendous. I mean, I don't know how often we have to say that no one should die while trying to get food, right?
Thank you.
We have a humanitarian distribution that works, that worked at scale. All we're asking is to be allowed to do our job, and we welcome efforts of others to also help with the humanitarian distribution, but to do it in ways which doesn't increase the risk and literally kills people. You, please.
Thank you, Steve. Sorry to ask you. My question is about the UN80, because next week on Tuesday, Mr. Guy Ryder will explain it to the member states. So is there any plan, Mr. Guy Ryder or somebody will brief to us?
Yes, I've spoke to Guy. We're trying to find a time for him to come down here. I mean, one question leads to another. Please, go ahead, Deji.
Okay, so today in the Security Council, the Iranian ambassador actually accused IAEA as well as the Security Council of inaction. And especially for IAEA, they also, I think, released a statement accusing the inaction and said they will pursue legal actions against the IAEA Chief Mr. Grossi. What's the position from the Secretary General on this, on IAEA's role in this issue?
The IAEA is the technical agency that deals with nuclear safety and nuclear energy. They have the expertise, they have the know-how, they have the knowledge on how to deal and the experience in dealing with these, often in very challenging situations. I mean, we've seen the work that our IAEA colleagues have done in Zaporizhzhia, in the middle of a war zone, trying to keep a nuclear center safe. The Secretary General fully supports their work, but it is very important to, like other parts of the UN, UN agencies don't exist on their own. They are a reflection of the collective will of the membership of this organization, and they must be allowed to do their work. Madame.
Thank you, Stefan. I would like to know if the document Israelis were speaking Iran was so close to develop nuclear weapons in a very short time of a few days or a week has been submitted to the United Nations and received by the Secretary General. Thank you.
Who was referring to this document?
The Israelis.
I'm not aware, but obviously you should also check with our IAEA colleagues. Yes, Madam.
Does the IAEA monitor the Israeli nuclear program?
You should ask the IAEA. Yes.
Thank you. Today, Israel attacked South Lebanon. Is Israeli attacks on Lebanon, Syria becoming no news for the spokesman office and the brief?
Well, it's
daily
not. I
briefing?
mean, we routinely report on the ones that we routinely report on the ones that we monitor. There have been attacks that we're not, because of the way they're conducted, we're not monitoring. But I think every time there's been a violation of Security Council's Resolution 1701, we report on it. Okay. Enjoy the rest of your day. Now I'm actually leaving.